Okay, let's continue on. And if you guys are following along with me and you have the paperback, I'm on page 7. Otherwise, I am still at the beginning of chapter 1 of A Secret of a Valentine's Desire. Tessa's inquisitive mind, carnal desires, and unrelenting psychic drive returned her to the present state and time after she'd floated away in her thoughts while hailing a cab and wandering 2 blocks. She'd survived immeasurable loss, war, and homelessness while learning to quell a sexual appetite that at times nearly crippled her mind. She stood again in front of this space as it called to her spirit and the other sacred entities living within her body and mind. The monstrous structure before her was clandestine, but it held no malice. So she slipped around back, instinctively called upon by the spirits of her ancestors, and gave charge to explore this mysterious place that called to her soul again. Just as the woman found the path leading to the grand main entrance with a mahogany and wrought iron door, adorned with a blood red globe above the doorbell, a soothing voice spoke from the dark entry, and the door slipped away into the tall shadows of the foyer. This next section is titled Celeste. What are you doing here? She noticed the woman looking around with what appeared to be an inquisitive mind with enticing eyes and a keen intuitive sense of her surroundings. The woman brought the madam's gaze from the inner workings of her establishment to a foreign soul as she explored property that was off limits to the average citizen. Celeste smiled softly when the stranger stopped at the entryway and turned to her voice. Yes, I'm speaking to you. Celeste leaned in and spoke to the woman she watched wandering about her highly secured fortress. She had caught the stranger peering into windows and brushing away salt stained piles of snow to get a better look inside. The intruder was startled and had yet to respond to anything the madam said. That did not impede her, and she spoke softly, hoping to create an enticing space to draw the woman's attention and learn about her intentions. What made you walk into my world and watch me embody those things you've been thinking about when heat, sweat, and longing wake you at night and urge your spirit to seek more of what ignites erotic thoughts and wet dreams? Don't you? Celeste didn't know this woman personally, but she was well versed in the desires of humans, far beyond what they admitted to themselves. And if the soul before her found this establishment hidden beyond walls, security systems, and the nip of winter's sinister hawk, then she knew exactly what the person hovering before her was looking to achieve. Are you ready to venture into the reality of yearnings and desires you haven't told a soul? That stranger slipped each of her forearms over the other and wrapped herself deeper beneath her overcoat, visibly shaken. Yet her need for what they provided within these secret halls and closed off rooms must have outweighed her fears. Therefore, she nodded at Celeste's invitation. Yeah? The owner whispered. She tilted her head towards a long corridor stained with towering mahogany walls, shadows cast by candelabra wall sconces, antique settees, and locked doors that held untold stories and secrets. Well, come on then. Let's get comfortable and explore. I've been waiting for someone just like you. The woman had yet to speak, but Celeste already knew her, just as she understood every lost soul who ventured into her web and ate from her palm. Sisson. Sisson was high in the third-story window, visually stalking the gorgeous woman with hips that swayed to a melody of heat and lush energy, even under the cloak of a floor-length wool coat with a split up her thigh that would tempt any soul of the holy order to sin in broad daylight. Who are you? Sis muttered to herself, memorizing the woman's location and distinct features before heading to find the one who was both her best friend and boss. "What are you doing over there?" Sisson called from the doorway, alerting the madam of her presence before entering her private space. From the sliver of light casting shadows on the desk and picture frame window, Sisson knew Celeste was taking in the same scenery she had moments earlier and watched as the madam pulled her gaze away from the unknown young woman wandering around the perimeter of their East Harlem mini mansion. The castle was made of rustic red brick and columns created by the patriarch of a family who was freed after serving in the Civil War in a colored regiment. He had built the home of his desire on the land of his dreams in his native city after surviving the atrocities of a war in the South and the brutality of enslavement in the North. The entire compound was encased in tall, wrought iron fencing and an impenetrable security system that hadn't chirped a peep with this other person's intrusion onto private property. Sisson peered over when her best friend moved to the side and pointed to the security spotlight, chasing the intruder's every move without sending an alert to either of their phones or the central command that was fed a monthly ransom for its very existence. "Who is that?" the madam shrugged, apparently wondering the same thing, while Sisson exhaled as they trailed her movements out in the bitter, frigid wind. The madam sighed and grabbed two precise, conspicuous tools on her desk that notified all who entered this private space that the safety and well-being of the owner and those who served clients would be preserved at all costs. Sisson stood on her tippy toes and leaned her forehead on the glass to get a better look outside at their intruder. "Don't you have someone waiting, sis?" The members-only establishment was already flowing with well-known and potential clients and calls. "I do." Sisson smiled when Celeste cut her off before there was another distraction. "So head down and take care of things." "I'm good. That lovely is not looking for anything but a treat. I'll take care of her, and you look out for you." Sisson fluffed her curly black and gold braids that framed her soft, full cheeks, heart-shaped lips, sparkling sable eyes with jet black lashes, and lovely brown skin, and looked at Celeste cautiously. "Be careful, sis. Promise?" This was their prayer and commitment to one another at the beginning of every night. "Promise." What many assumed was Sisson trying to be sultry or discreet was simply how she verbally communicated with the world. Soft, succinct, welcoming, seductive. Her energy was a montage of all she'd experienced in life and what lured in both friend and foe. She turned to go, but kept her gaze pinned on Celeste as her boss grabbed the sharpest of two blades and slid it beneath the edge of her dress. She placed it lethally close to the hem of her panties, where a holster sat every evening around this time, ready to assist her in remedying dire matters that frequented her profession and city. The gentle soul knew that on days like this, the nightly chaos of this type of establishment wore on her best friend and boss, and she had difficulty managing the stress that challenged her normally sharp intellect. Celeste was adept at suppressing the memories of physical violence and sexual abuse from her childhood. The treachery she had encountered in the world after fleeing that existence before she was a teenager, pushed into the wild after even her beloved dog turned on her, and she was forced to decide between her life and those who hunted her under the only roof she had ever called home. Within that tiny dwelling, sitting far back from the curb, she had taken her first life and then another within a matter of moments. It made her adept at self-preservation and understanding that life was only as precious as you allowed, based upon the security you alone created and demanded. So that's the end of that reading. And these are characters, Celeste and Sisson in particular are characters that you will see in later stories. And I was so excited to be able to write about their origin, or at least what happens earlier on in their lives. So I hope you enjoyed that reading. Those are characters that I really love. And you'll see as the story progresses, you'll find out more about their characters and how they run this establishment. So stay tuned, because there'll be more story time from my other books, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Peace.